Poppy is the Community Engagement Manager at Hireup, and Poppy has a BA in Psychology and Health from Macquarie Uni and has been working in the health and disability sector in both frontline and exec roles for the last 8 years. So during this time, Poppy has led numerous transformation and service redesign projects and is highly experienced and knowledgeable in the areas of individualised funding and the NDIS. So Poppy's professional interests are centred around how technology and universal design can enable people with disability to lead fulfilling lives through empowerment, contribution and inclusion. So Poppy cares deeply about the challenges faced by people with a disability, having grown up with a relative with disability. So would you please welcome Poppy to the stage? Poppy's going to talk about Hireup, the online platform revolutionising the Australian disability sector. Thanks, Poppy.
Thank you.
Just got a slide.
So much. Wonderful. Well, thanks everyone for having me here today. It's a really exciting opportunity for both myself and for Hireup for many reasons. One of the really big exciting reasons is I logged on yesterday onto our platform and found that we've got our first Hireup user in Toowoomba. So that's really exciting. It was good to get out here and actually see, you know, what is Toowoomba, and I've heard lots of wonderful things about Toowoomba and hope to be able to see a bit of Toowoomba over the next couple of days. Obviously, the other really exciting part about being here today is, as you said, I'm very, very passionate about technology and incredibly passionate about the disability sector and building a really fantastic future for this sector, especially with the opportunities that the NDIS will bring. So before I go on and sort of share the details around what Hireup is, I'd just like to tell the story as to how Hireup came about. Hireup's co-founders, Jordan and Laura O'Reilly. Jordan's our CEO, who would have loved to be here today, but he's overseas in a youth leadership forum. He's you know, really carving the way for young Australians who are creating really fantastic digital innovative solutions. So Jordan O'Reilly and Laura O'Reilly had a younger sibling, Shane, who had a really complex and quite severe physical disability and required pretty much 24/7 one-to-one support throughout his life. The family, you know, throughout Shane's life were very frustrated and felt very disempowered by the situation in which they stood, which was one that they had little choice and control over the supports that they had in and out of Shane's life. You know, Jordan recalls the times, you know, sitting on the lounge at 7 a.m, waiting for that knock on the door from someone that they had never met, only to let them in to provide really intimate and, you know, quite personal supports to Shane, showering and getting him dressed. And it often, you know, the family and Shane both thought that, you know, whether the support worker was fantastic or maybe just not the right person to be providing that sort of support. So again, you know, a very disempowering situation for both Shane and the family. And at the same time, the family was seeing these incredible inefficiencies of a system where they'd have to contact an agency, the agency would then contact the support workers and vice versa, a really timely and very costly way of delivering service when this family actually had the ability and the desire to manage such services themselves, but there was just no solution for them. Then at the same time of this, they're seeing these incredibly costly services, massive blowouts, cost of an hour of service being anywhere between sort of $50 and $80 an hour, and just, you know, again, being really unpleased with the way that the service was being delivered. So that disempowerment, the inefficiency and the cost blowout were, you know, real drivers for this platform. And at the same time, Jordan was studying to be an OT. He decided to be a support worker, and then got to see it on the other side of the fence, where he was the one knocking on the door at 7 a.m. to turn up to someone to provide quite, you know, intimate personal care to someone he only knew, you know, their name, and it, you know, often at times didn't feel like he was the right person to be there, and you know, knew that the cost of the services were anywhere between $40, $50, $60, $80, but yet he was only being paid around $20, $25. So the combination of that, whilst also growing up in a time where there's amazing technology and platforms and incredible innovations, coming into the sector, Jordan and his sister were like, surely something can happen. We can combine these incredible technologies with this really massive challenge that we're faced with, and then the huge opportunity that the NDIS brings to find some solutions for this system. So that's where Hireup came. Hireup's an online platform that gives Australians with disability the power to find, hire and manage their very own support workers. Hireup's a user-driven online community of both people with a disability who are seeking support, as well as some of the best and the brightest support workers in the country. We're a very young company. We only officially launched in January last year, yet we've had over 5,000 registrations in the last 12 months, so both people with a disability and support workers. We've processed over 70,000 hours of support through the platform, and we've got active users right around the country: South Australia, Victoria, Tassie, ACT, New South Wales, Northern Territory and Queensland. So really happy to just sort of be sitting in our offices in Sydney and just seeing these little communities light up right across the country, and then to log on and see that there's a sole user in Toowoomba. We need to find him some support workers, but I'll do that when I get back home. And right now the average user is saving 25% over what they were previously paying by using Hireup. So to just take you through how Hireup works. So it starts off by both a support worker or a person with a disability. They create a profile that tells us and the community a little bit about them and what they're looking for. There's then a verification step. So for all our support workers, just like any traditional agency, we do all the pre-employment screening, working with Children's Check or Vulnerable People's Check, working with National Police Check, 2 references, CV, and they require first aid or CPR. We also do a reference on our clients and families, and that seems a bit strange, but we do like to just ensure that the people who are joining our online community are who they say they are, and that they've got the capacity to manage these responsibilities themselves. So that's a really important piece of this model, that individuals need to have the desire and the capacity to manage their own support workers. So we know that right now this isn't a solution for everyone, but for a lot of people and a lot of families, they actually want to take charge of these services themselves. So Hireup's working for those people. So they get through the verification piece, then they go on and are able to search and message one another. So search within a region, and I'll show you some of the screenshots of what the platform looks like. So you can search messaging, live messaging, just sort of like Facebook. And then a client can go on and make a booking once they may have found someone on the platform. People work together. And then step 6 is when Hireup comes in, and we take care of all of the payment and the processing. So as a legal employer, we obviously take care of the tax, the super, payroll, invoicing, all of the insurances and any necessary reporting dependent on the state. So these are some of the screenshots of the actual platform to give you a bit of a feel for what it looks like. So you jump onto the website. If you're eager to register, you'd hop up to the right corner and click register. You'd either be looking for a support worker, or you'd be looking for a support worker, or you'd be looking to provide support. Then you go through those verification steps. Here's a client that's been approved. This is their dashboard, and as you can see, there's on the right-hand side, there's Charlotte's team. She's got a couple of support workers that are in her team. She's got a couple of her jobs that she's posted, and I'll talk a little bit more about the jobs board later. She's got all of her bookings and at what stage they're in, whether they're needing approval or confirmation or finalisation. And then she's also got her week. And you can see up on the top banner there's the dashboard, search, bookings and jobs board, which I'll also talk a little bit more about those functions as well. But I guess what this is showing is the automation of this technology is allowing automated timesheets, all of these things that right now in sort of a traditional agency, you've got people handling paper and managing these processes in pretty inefficient ways. So this is the part that really excites me. This is not only because it's Sarah, who's a good friend of mine, and she also works in the Hireup team, but she's also a support worker on the platform and was one of the first ever support workers with Hireup. And it's just one of the most exciting innovations, and it seems crazy to be saying this, but the innovation in someone being able to introduce themselves in a way that's meaningful to them. You know, too often people are sort of just judged as support workers based on their skills and their certificates and their qualifications and whatever that is. And me, having been a support worker myself and have managed teams of support workers, I know that the best support worker isn't always the one with all of the qualifications and the certificates. The best support for someone is the best support for someone because maybe it's a shared interest, it's a commonality, or a particular personality that someone's wanting to work with. So here you can see Sarah talks a little bit about her experience, but then down the bottom she says, I love to dance, I love music and art, so if you're a bit creative, I know we'd get along. Now, Sarah and I would get along, we do get along, but maybe if you were someone, you know, looking to go to the footy and hang out at the pub, you might not want to reach out to Sarah. She might not be the most appropriate person for you, although I'm sure she would still think she is. So if Sarah sort of was someone that you're looking to connect with, you might send Sarah a message, have a little conversation, find out about her availability, you know, maybe ask a couple of other questions, and all going well, you might then go ahead and make a booking. Or you might discuss to meet up for a coffee and sort of have a little bit of an interview first before you go on and make a booking to use Sarah as your paid support worker. There you can see that she's been verified as well by Hireup. She's got all of her checks, and that's a real responsibility that we take very seriously. Here's our search function. Now, this isn't always as relevant in more rural and remote communities because there might not be an existing Hireup community, or it might just be growing, or it might be so remote that there's only a few people in that town. But just to get the feel of how it would work, where there is a sort of decent size of people, support workers or people seeking support. So this is a search function. You put in the location that you're looking for support or you're looking to connect with a person seeking support. You might be able to, you might want to filter some of the options, some of the support types, age, gender, whatever it is that you're wanting to sort of filter by. You can also then list the profile, so you can see a little visual and a short sort of snapshot of who they are. This is the messaging function, like I said, very similar to Facebook. And then this is the booking function. Again, seems crazy for me to say this, but another massive innovation in the disability sector where we're incredibly transparent about the cost. It's really hard in this sector, you know, up until kind of now the NDIS has sort of put pricing on a lot of services, but leading up to sort of, you know, last few years, it's been really hard to find out what the cost of a service is, which makes it really impossible for families who are wanting to manage their individualised budgets and wanting to build their own capacity to do so. How can you do that if you actually don't know the cost of a service that you're about to receive? So we're incredibly proud of doing this, and we think it's absolutely fundamental to people being able to build their capacity to self-manage. So here you've got the start time, the times of the shift, the date, and then you've got total 2 hours, $70. Up front, before you make that booking, you'll know what the cost of the service is. Here's the jobs board that I mentioned earlier, very much like a sort of community notice board. There are a couple of jobs here. Me as a support worker, I've logged in and I've seen these jobs. If I was a client and I'm looking for maybe someone to support me to go to a concert on the weekend or go to a footy match, me or maybe it might be my family member who's helping me manage my account, would create the job detailing the support needs or the support requirements, type of person that I'm looking for, where it is and when it is. Pop that up onto the jobs board. That will then send out to all of the support workers in the area, and if a support worker is interested, they'll get in contact and a conversation can be started from there. So this is really fantastic new feature that we've launched that's really helping people connect quite quickly. So otherwise people might just be going and using the search function. So there's a couple of examples of people using Hireup. We've got Ben and Tobias here. Ben's 19, he's studying at uni towards his goal of being a teacher. He's got a passion for learning and helping others to learn. Then there's Tobias, he's an academic at Ben's uni and he's working towards his own PhD in sociology. They work together every week And Ben's being supported to learn his course content, new skills for essay writing, and also how to properly reference academic sources. I mean, who better to provide that support than a PhD student? And it was a really wonderful moment earlier this year when Ben had joined up on Hireup and had created his profile, and it was a couple of days later that Tobias joined up, and we saw that both of them were at Macquarie Uni and you know, facilitated a bit of a connection, and they've just got this brilliant relationship where it's just so appropriate. Tobias was very new to providing any sort of support. He had had a bit of lived experience with disability, but never worked in a paid role. And Ben's got cerebral palsy, so it's a relatively complex disability and has some quite specific support requirements, but Tobias was able to manage that. Ben and his family were able to provide him with necessary training that allowed Tobias to be the right support for Ben. We've then got a different type of sort of relationship here. We've got two young boys, Dom and Seb, they're in the ACT, and they're working with Gemma. So before Hireup, the family recorded seeing 55 support workers in just 5 years. Now the family are in complete control of this team of 6 that they've got that all bring their own, you know, own skills and is providing a whole lot of stability to this family, who otherwise were in a pretty sort of dire situation. Gemma, she's studying nursing and paramedicine at university, and she supports the boys towards their NDIS goals. Now, both of these boys have quite complex disabilities again, and their team of 6, like I mentioned, bring a range of different skills. Gemma, they found on the platform. She was an existing support worker in the Canberra community, but the other support workers, they actually brought on themselves. So Dom and Seb's mum, you know, was taking the boys to a whole bunch of other activities, and they really loved their swimming instructor who they had on a Saturday morning. And Mel, their mum, approached the swimming instructor and said, "Hey, have you got any extra spare time? You get along really well with the boys, you understand them. It'd be great if we could use you in this other capacity, in this other role with Hireup." And so she was really keen, she jumped on, she got registered, and now she's providing support to the boys a couple of afternoons a week. So that's where we're seeing in more rural and remote communities, not that ACT is a rural and remote community, but how it can work for people in more rural and remote communities where they're bringing on their own people that they're already familiar with in their own networks and their own communities. We've then got here Marietta and Alan. So Marietta describes herself as looking for support buddies to help her get out and about into the world. She already knew Alan and saw Hireup as a great way to engage him in a formal basis for hydrotherapy appointments and other bits and pieces. And for Alan, who describes himself as semi-retired, he was really excited by this opportunity to formalise the relationship, but also providing him with all the insurances and the payroll and the tax and the super, things that otherwise Alan wouldn't wanted to sort of take on that responsibility himself. So again, another scenario where an individual has brought on a support worker themselves and used Hireup to formalise it. So Hireup for rural and remote communities, specifically for people who are seeking support. So NDIS, you know, huge amounts of opportunities for new innovation to enter into the sector. We're already seeing, you know, amazing new platforms and other technologies come in, and it's really becoming quite a thriving marketplace. I'm excited to see what happens over the coming years. So, you know, like I mentioned, for people in these communities, bringing on their own supports or people that are in their existing network is a fantastic way to get started with Hireup, because we're not everywhere. We're not coming out and doing workshops and marketing in every little local small town. But I'd love to find out actually how the young guy in Toowoomba found out about us. That'd be interesting. So then there's huge flexibility. So it's more than just finding everyday supports. It's also providing a really cost-efficient way to find supports for people when they're travelling or going on holidays. So there's a lovely story that goes with this. Jordan, our CEO, earlier this year was presenting at a rural and remote conference in South Australia, and the majority of the people in the audience were disability service providers, and he had sort of done the Hireup pitch and asked if there are any questions, and it was very quiet. And anyway, so I was sort of about to wrap up, and a lady at the front popped her hand up and said, "Oh, actually, I don't have a question, but I just wanted to say that I'm from the Northern Territory, and if it wasn't for Hireup and me finding Hireup a couple of months ago, joining up, I actually wouldn't have been able to get to this conference today." So this lady who's in the Northern Territory has a young daughter with a disability. They got onto Hireup. They found out through Facebook or some sort of social media, and joined up, and then searched for support workers in the region that the conference was in South Australia. Was able to connect with a couple of people. When they arrived, they did a few interviews, and then there was the mum at the conference. Her daughter was off being supported by a lovely young girl in South Australia. So, you know, having a platform like this that is national and has this reach, and the capacity for people to find supports when and where and how they want them in a really cost-efficient way is proving to be, you know, fantastic for a lot of people. Obviously, you know, increased accessibility to the internet and digital technologies is allowing for new models of service, and helping us sort of face some of the challenges that more remote communities do face in terms of having choice around services. I often am chatting to people in rural regions who say, we've only got one service provider who we can't stand, but there's no one else. So Hireup's a fantastic option that we can be anywhere if someone wants to create their own Hireup community. Then there's the connection piece. So obviously technology, it's making life easier and seamless in so many ways, and platforms are being built to make a world more connected, bringing communities together over common ground and shared interests, and that's really what Hireup's hoping to achieve. The other huge opportunities that Hireup brings is for employment, for people who are seeking work. So the NDIS will double the disability service workforce with over 70,000 new jobs by 2020, which is absolutely massive. Support workers through Hireup are able to customise their career to suit their needs, their commitments, their passions, their interests. It provides a great opportunity for people in areas where sort of employment opportunities are quite limited. But it also provides a great opportunity for people to complement their existing work. So people who are part-time allied health fields, or, you know, it might be the local swim instructor or whoever it is, it's actually a wonderful way to just complement the work that they're currently doing, because it is so flexible. So yeah, like I said, you know, we're building capacity in the community, but we're also building capacity within the existing workforce. So by bringing in models like this, we're really challenging people's sort of conceptions on the way that they've always delivered service to be able to provide a much more tailored, individualised support service to people, which is very exciting. And we pay really well. So we pay industry-leading wages to all of our support workers. This slide is sort of a little bit more important for people who would be seeking support or support workers, but it's really just getting people to think about how Hireup could work for them. We know that the key to a very successful Hireup relationship is being able to answer those top 3 questions. What is it? What are your unique circumstances and goals? How could a support worker help you achieve those? And what are you looking for in a support worker relationship? So what we've found, like Marietta, she calls her support workers her support buddies. You know, is it that you're looking to gain new social skills and you're wanting a social coach to help you get out and about and build those social skills? Are you looking for a community connector, an educator, a workplace mentor, a personal care assistant, a personal assistant, just to get on top of the tasks around the house? So that's what we're really challenging people to think about. Don't just think about support as means to an end or as, you know, respite for a family. What is it that you're trying to achieve, and how can a support worker or a support like this help you achieve that? By finding the right person, we believe you can. So now is some more of the details around the costs and that sort of thing. So Hireup is free to join. We're upfront about our fees, and it's $35.50 is our starting rate for a typical hour of support. Now, you'll find very few service providers that are able to charge for their services at that rate. Of this, our workers are paid $29.20, and the difference in between is what we charge for, you know, all the technology and the insurance and our team. So for participants, and I'll just talk about the top one, for participants in New South Wales, Queensland, Victoria, Tassie, the NDIS will pay $42.79 for every hour, and that's just a typical hour. And by using Hireup, participants will save $7.29 every single hour, which then can go towards more hours of support, which if you speak to anyone who knows the real cost and the meaning of an hour of support, being able to stretch an NDIS package or your funding package and get a couple of extra hours a week, a month, is incredibly valuable. Then the other one is the pricing for the other states. Hireup in the NDIS, so right now we're compatible really with all forms of funding, personally funded, state-based, disability funding, some other forms of funding as well, some aged care funding that people are also using, and NDIS funding for those that are self-managing or plan managing. We've got our NDIS registration in New South Wales and are taking our registration on board now for the rest of the state. So hopefully by the end of the year we'll be compatible with all forms of funding. Our employment model, like I said, we employ all of our support workers through flexible casual contracts. We then have a service agreement in place with our clients, and then we all work together in partnership with what we call a co-employment relationship. So the individual, the client, the family, they're actually driving what type of support is being delivered, and then a support worker can choose whether that's something that they feel like they can provide or something they feel like they should be providing. People reach out to us if they think things are sort of not okay to be asking, but generally speaking, people are managing these relationships really well, and that's what we believe. We believe people want to and can manage these sorts of relationships themselves if they've got the right help and solutions like this. So it means that then people have got maximum flexibility to build their own relationships and make their own arrangements for working together. As I've mentioned, we pay the wages, the tax, the super, and we cover all of our users with comprehensive insurance. Safety and training. Safety of our community is our highest priority. We take a number of steps to ensure this. We verify all of our users before they join the platform. We request feedback from every user on every shift that's booked. This part really, really excites me. So it's really keeping those lines of communication with a community that is very remote to us. We don't see or speak to a lot of people. So every shift that's booked, after it's been delivered, we ask for a 5-star rating. Anything 3 or less, we pick up the phone straight away and find out what's happened. Now we're requesting this feedback from both support workers and from clients, and it's been an amazing opportunity to just have conversations. Someone might give a support worker a 3 because they arrived 15 minutes late, but that's okay because we're getting to then understand what's really important for that individual and making sure that we're connecting people who are going to be really reliable and understand the importance of time for that family. But generally speaking, things are going really well. We offer phone, email and text support. We've got online emergency and incident reporting procedures available 24/7. We perform weekly spot checks on all of our active users. We've got a user removal policy, and we've got really strong and open links with all relevant state authorities. We've just launched our new training platform, the Hireup Academy, which is providing training for support workers that's meaningful and relevant to them. So we're not putting our support workers through every bit of training that they may go on and then never use again. What we're saying is we're going to have a platform, a database of training that you may need at some point in time, whether it's medication, manual handling, fire safety, and they can access it through this training portal. We've then got support plans. So these are digital support plans where people put in the information that's necessary for them to be able to provide to their support workers. So things regarding medication, their anything relating to manual handling, behaviour support, and there's also a safety assessment piece in there as well, which is sort of like your risk assessment on the either the home or wherever the work environment is. Like I said, by using Hireup, you're covered by our comprehensive insurance. So all shifts booked and worked through the Hireup platform, where we provide public liability, professional indemnity and workers' compensation. Now I'm not sure how much longer I have. 2 minutes, lovely. I'll tell just about to wrap up, I'll tell a lovely story to just finish off. So this is again Sarah, And this is young Andrew, who was one of our first ever users on the Hireup platform last year. He's a massive St George fan, but he's also really passionate about singing. He grew up with his grandfather, who had a beautiful voice and loved singing Italian opera. So we connected them through the platform, and they were going out and about and just hanging around the shops here and there. And Andrew was constantly singing, and he had this incredible voice singing this Italian opera. And Sarah was kind of going like, come on, mate, like, you know, we're in the shops. We don't need to be singing opera. What are we going to do with this voice? And, you know, Andrew, being a typical teenager, was just like, yeah, whatever. And Sarah's like, what about busking? And he was like, absolutely not. There's no chance in hell I'm going busking. But lo and behold, that night, Andrew was a proud new owner of a local busking licence. And the next time they worked together, they went off to H&M, got Andrew a big, you know, all his outfit and everything, the bow tie, and went off to Leichhardt markets, and Andrew busks. That was the first time he busked. And came home with $250. Which was just a beautiful story of when you can connect people on that common ground, those shared interests. There's amazing things that can happen. And now Andrew goes out regularly. You may have seen a feature on the 7:30 report. Andrew's going out regularly, busking with both Sarah and other support workers all around Sydney, sometimes coming home with $650. So, you know, after his first time of busking in Leichhardt, he turned to Sarah and he's like, I'm doing this forever. Like, this is just gold. And, you know, we're just hearing these stories all the time, and it's just becoming part of the, you know, the Hireup philosophy, which is, you know, you will connect with someone and doors will open, and, you know, your goals will be achieved. So a lovely story to finish off. That's really all from me. If you've got any questions, please, I'll be around for a couple of days, the next few days, so ask me questions, get in contact with me by email. Thank you very much.